1 minute. It should go live.
Yeah. We are live.
Good. You're going to want that mic closer to you. So move that computer like this way, I guess. And yeah. Just kind of do one of those. Ready?
Good morning. Have you heard the words, it's cancer and it's not you, it's your child or loved one? I'm Andrea Richmond, anchorwoman here at Love Beyond the Diagnosis, author of a memoir, Love Beyond Scope, and founder of the Courage Bear Project. Here we broadcast hope and dial into real stories of families navigating life after a cancer diagnosis. You'll find encouragement, storytelling, educational support, conversations with moms who know firsthand life beyond the diagnosis, and dialogue from leading voices who are making an impact on the standard of care for pediatric cancers. You will also find resources rooted in faith to help you breathe, rise, and thrive in the middle of it all. Because mama, you are not alone. I'm Andrea Richmond, and this is Love Beyond the Diagnosis, a space for mothers who have just stepped into the unimaginable. If you missed week 1 and 2, be sure to go check us out on YouTube and Instagram at Love Beyond the Diagnosis. Please like and follow me, Andrea Richmond, on my Facebook page for more updates as I continue to post information and updates on my mission to serve mothers, caregivers, and their children navigating life beyond the diagnosis. In the first 13 weeks of the show, I'm sharing with you 13 letters broadcasting hope to the mama and her family who needs the voice of love, whispers of encouragement, and the courage to keep going, found only in community with one another. So it's October, second week here in October, and the leaves on the trees are turning magnificent colors of red, orange, yellow, and brown here in Erie, Pennsylvania. And seasoned for pumpkin carving, visiting haunted houses, running through cornfield mazes, dressing up in creepy costumes from vampires to princesses and everything in between, drinking apple cider and all the things we do to create joy during this fast and fleeting season. And what better time for me to write to you my third letter to you about blood, and in particular blood transfusions, and what I wished I knew on day 1, diagnosis day, about them. So I remember the day my daughter received her first blood transfusion. I was not prepared for it. It happened quicker than I could comprehend what was going on. I remember a nurse named Andy came into the room, and he would announce that Lauren would be receiving a red blood cell transfusion. At that point, I was very much concerned about where this blood was coming from. And I also asked the question whether or not the blood was safe, and if I could give her my own blood instead, or a family member's blood instead of mine. And they also asked if we knew her blood type. At this point, it was all a very unfamiliar situation, one in which I'd never experienced before. In fact, I never even thought about what a blood transfusion was useful for and how it would help my daughter in the long run and become a lifeline to her energy level and also her ability to just function in everyday life. Because when she was originally diagnosed, she presented with very low hemoglobin, which means she didn't have very many red blood cells. And at that point, there was no other way except to go ahead and receive a blood from the local blood bank and allow her to get this treatment to help her. So I have a guest here today who is a triple certified neurolinguistic programming practitioner. She's a timeline therapist and a functional medicine certified health coach. She's the founder and owner of Gray Gardens Health Coaching. Her expertise has helped hundreds of clients reduce stress and anxiety, support digestion, hormone balance, relationship improvements, academics, job performance, addiction recovery, and general well-being. Elizabeth joins us here this morning, and she enjoys hiking, biking, and all kinds of fun things, leading worship at her church. She resides in Erie and works with clients in person and remotely. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Good morning. It's so good to be here, Andrea. And I just love what you're doing and how you're supporting moms, and just sharing your story is so important, because a lot of times when moms are in this position, they feel like they're alone. And they feel like the things that they're experiencing, no one else is experiencing. So thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you for. Yeah. So Elizabeth, a mother who's in this position where their child has been diagnosed, they're in the hospital day one, and they have this overwhelming amount of stress. What advice or what things could you tell a mom in that position, or what would you offer to them to help them navigate with more assurance and more confidence through this sudden change in just everything around them, right? The whole world, my whole world changed. Like everything was different. Like I was in this hospital room and we didn't even really understand the chemo protocol. But then before chemo, we were getting a blood transfusion, which at that point, I didn't understand that, 4 out of 10 hospital visits, that 4 out of 10 patients who visit the hospital during chemotherapy will receive a blood transfusion. And, I later learned that it is much safer for my child to receive blood from the local blood bank than for me as her mother to give my own blood, because the blood is processed in a way that makes it more safe. It undergoes rigorous testing. So,
well, first and foremost, I'm a coach. So if it's all right, I'd love to just kind of coach you through your example.
Okay.
So I'm curious, what were the thoughts that you had when you first heard that she needed a blood transfusion?
Oh, my first thoughts were like, how could this be? Like, I didn't even understand. I was like, I wanted so desperately to provide that lifeline to my child. Like I felt sole responsibility for her health at that point, and I wanted to help her in any way I could. Like, I didn't see the world as a place that was going to get my daughter better.
And so your thought was, I can step in and I can save her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
Which is a mother's heart, right?
Yes.
The mother's heart is the one that wants to save and heal her child. What were the thoughts that came after that? When you realized that was not going to be possible?
As soon as the blood started coming from that bag, that when Nurse Andy hung that bag inside our room, like he came into the room and said the blood will be coming from the bank. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's coming. There's no stopping this process.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
this is going to happen whether I say yes or no.
Right.
Like,
Right. And what was the resistance there? So I'm sensing that there was some resistance. Like, I want to do this. I want to take care of this, but I can't. Why was there resistance of having this blood?
oh, I was worried about the where the blood was coming from,
Yeah.
and if it was safe.
Hmm.
And my Lauren at that point was 16 months old. So I asked myself, like, how can a baby who's 16 months old receive blood from another human being? Like, she came out of my body, right? And it was only my blood to that point. Like, we share the bloodstream for 9 months. So there's a very maternal instinct
Yes.
that drives those feelings of stress or overwhelm and just worry, right? And once Nurse Andy came back and he's like, oh, she's A positive and we're going to get this going. I'm going to pre-medicate her with Benadryl and it's all going to go just great. And I'm like, this guy is dancing around the room whistling like about a blood transfusion. And I'm sitting there in this blue leather recliner saying nothing as like the tears just, come down from my eyes, and I'm in complete submission of the process by that point.
Well, first I want to acknowledge your bravery.
Yeah.
Right. Two times. First, you're sharing the story. That's brave. But also in that moment, you had to be brave.
Oh, yeah.
Because this was unknown, charted territory for you. And so a couple of things. As a neurolinguistic programming practitioner, I'm thinking about how's the brain working? What's happening? What's the language of the brain that's happening inside? And so our primitive brain, its job is to look for danger. And as a mom, that mama bear instinct, like our job as a mom is to protect.
Yes.
And so the primitive brain is not only looking for danger to protect you from, but also from your child.
Yes.
And so that thought came, right? The thought came, my daughter has to have a blood transfusion. And then the thinking came after that thought. And it's often the thinking that creates our suffering. We can't control that first thought, that pain. But what we can do is we can control the thinking around that thought.
Yes, that's so powerful, right?
So when you
such good medicine.
Yes,
that is
yes,
such good medicine.
Yes. I think about, the Bible, whatever is lovely, whatever is noble, whatever is praiseworthy, think on those things. Yes. And so now I want to ask you, what happened after that? When you saw the blood going in, you saw this nurse who's like, no fear, right? This nurse isn't concerned about this blood going into your 18-month-old daughter. In fact, he's excited about it.
Yes.
So what shifted for you?
Oh, well, within hours of the transfusion, I mean, I would say even once the transfusion was finished, which it took maybe 30 total minutes to transfuse, 30 to 45 minutes to transfuse that original bag of blood. Lauren went from being quite lethargic and having not very much energy to just sitting up and interacting. And I remember her playing like with a star stacker that lit up, and she was putting all the different colored stars on a stacker, and it was producing some music as she was adding each different like star to there was a red one and a blue one and green and yellow, and then the star went on top. And so those moments of joy quickly arrived in that room.
Yeah.
And I understood like the power of this life-saving therapy at that point. And I do remember looking at my husband and saying, how can this be? Like, how can she go from being so sick and being just so down to like sitting up and interacting with us. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she hadn't really done that in, I would say, weeks. Like she was slowly going downhill because she presented so immune suppressed at that point, and had an ecthyma, which is basically a skin infection, Pseudomonas skin infection. So she was very immune suppressed when she presented, and yeah, the blood definitely changed our projection and our outlook of what was going to occur in Children's Hospital over the next, months and then years and years that turned into more years. So, yeah, it's just such a beautiful way of, looking back on it. I think every mother should have this from day one, should understand that the feelings are normal, but
Yes.
are they real? Like, are they not, they're real, but are they backed by science and evidence, right? What we talked about.
So let me explain what's happening in the brain. Everything comes into our brain through our senses. We see it, we hear it, we smell it, we taste it, we feel it, right? That includes what we feel inside our body, not just touching. And that information goes through filters in our brain, and the filters delete, distort, and generalize that information.
Very much so.
Yes,
Like,
because the brain is trying to figure out this information, and it's trying to sort the information to know what to do with it.
Right.
And so all it has is its memories, its beliefs, the language, our meta programs, just kind of like the default programs that run, the stories we tell ourselves, that's kind of a default program. And so our conscious mind, our subconscious mind is able to process billions of bits of information a second, but our conscious mind can only do about 128 bits, and it has to chunk those down into 7 chunks. Right?
Okay.
So you can see how it's going to delete, distort, and generalize a lot of information.
Oh, yeah.
So the primitive brain is always looking for danger, right? It looks for danger.
How can I make this not happen?
Yeah, exactly. This doesn't feel safe, right? And so then the stories start. Then the brain is trying to make logic out of something that's unfamiliar.
Right.
Now you have this experience.
Oh,
so there's a new filter in the brain.
Right. Oh.
And so now you can say, yes, blood is good.
Yes. And all blood products. My gosh, Lauren, a month later, ended up having FFP. She developed a blood clot from one of the chemotherapies, and what happened is one of her anti-clotting factors was shut down, so she was forming clots in her body, and it happened to be in her sagittal sinus of her brain. Well, there's a product that the blood banks provide. They're called fresh frozen plasma, and it can restore that particular cell, those particular cells, those proteins that they need so that their blood will not clot. So lots of good things around that. So a month later, we began to really accept some of these things and figure out how blood is very advantageous, and blood products, these cellular therapies ultimately help the patient.
Amazing.
And save my daughter's life. Right?
That's a new story, a new filter that your brain created.
Right.
All right. So grab a pencil, because I'm going to give you some really quick, easy tips that you can do to stop that spiral.
Okay.
Right?
Awesome.
The first thing is breathe.
Yeah.
Just take a breath. Take a breath to reset your nervous system. And then follow these 4 questions. The first question, is this fact or fear talking? Because our primitive brain likes to look for the worst, the fear, the worst thing. What evidence do I have for or against this? whatever that thought is, whatever that
That's
negative thought is.
awesome.
What evidence do I have? Am I assuming the worst case scenario? That's the third question. And the final question is, what would I tell a friend in this situation? You would never tell your friend your child's going to get a bloodborne illness, right?
Never.
But we say these things to ourselves.
Right.
So use the same care and compassion that you would with a friend toward your own self.
Yes. And I would just love for mothers to hear this on day one, so they can like
Yes.
have this real compelling story that can just lead them into that journey with more peace on the front end and more knowing that, you know, they are the mother still, but that there is a village of people and so many smart, compassionate individuals that are there that can really lead you to that love right beyond the diagnosis, which it's so amazing to sit here today and talk about. So thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Yes.
We will be posting your information to our Instagram account, Love Beyond the Diagnosis. So if anybody wants to check that out, go to Love Beyond the Diagnosis, the Andrea Richmond Show on Instagram, and you'll learn more about Elizabeth and her programs. Next guest I have here today is Deanna Rosenthal. She's the executive director of the Community Blood Bank. So Dee, we'll just do maybe a few minutes of talking about testing and what it means when the blood comes to you and the rigorous testing that is undergone before it's brought to the patient.
Absolutely. So, you know, that's always the first fear, right? Like, is the blood safe? And our local blood supply, we are mandated by the FDA. We follow all of the guidelines to make sure it's a safe blood supply. So it starts with the donor history questionnaire that every donor has to fill out, about 50 questions, you know, talking about their health, travel, medications, all of those things. We review that and then, you know, make sure you're eligible. You go through a mini physical when you donate. Again, making sure you're healthy enough to donate. And then following the actual donation process, about 14 tests are done on every unit of blood, regardless of if it's your first time or your 100th time donating. You know, we do all of that testing to make sure it's safe to go to the patients.
I love it. So, of course, there's extra measures taken for children with cancer. It's often leuko-reduced and it's CMV safe, which is another specific virus that they worry about.
Yep.
For cancer patients.
Absolutely. We have, you know, what we call kind of a special group of donors, and they know when they come in, we need a certain amount of baby blood donors every week, the CMV negative, O negative donors. And, you know, they'll come in and they'll be like, I'm baby blood. Like, I have baby blood. Like, can I donate today? And we get those early in the week to make sure we have enough for the hospitals throughout the week.
That's amazing. And, of course, there's compatibility and cross-matching to ensure the safest possible product for each child.
Yep, absolutely.
And so I just want to mention just quickly that parents shouldn't donate or can't donate directly because there are different reasons. And one of them is that they don't necessarily, their blood will not necessarily be compatible with their child's blood, correct?
Yeah. And I know it's always, like you said, the first thought, right? You want to directly help. And you have family members, you see them go through something and you want to directly help. But, you know, kind of just know that you're going to receive the best blood for your family member. And so that's kind of why whenever donors come in, it goes into the general population of blood. And then we give the hospitals, you know, their supply, and then they give the patient what they need, because it might not be the best match or what your daughter or family member needs at that time.
Perfect. That's excellent to know. So what is the best way to connect with Community Blood Bank in Erie?
Yeah. So we are fortunate, like you said, we have our local blood bank here in Erie. So we're really lucky to have that. So Community Blood Bank, we're located at 26 and Peach Street. You can access us on our website at 4Hearts, spelled out FOUR, hearts.org. And I'll just say, you know, a lot of people think, oh, I'm not eligible to donate or I can't donate. But over 60% of the population is eligible. Less than 3% do every year. That's a staggering difference. And, we've all, a lot of us have had a family member go through something and you want to help and
Right.
you're looking for a way. And blood donation is such an amazing way to give back to the community because it doesn't require a special skill. It doesn't cost money. It's just an hour of your time and so impactful because the blood is on the shelf the next day for the hospital. So I would just, encourage anybody out there to see if you're eligible. Give us a call, visit, our website or anything. Just check to see if you're
Fantastic.
eligible.
That's forhearts.org.
Yeah.
Forhearts.org. So if you ever wanted to give life, giving blood is one of the most powerful ways you can do it. You may not be able to give directly to your child, but you can help a child like mine. Please visit the local blood bank for community blood bank here in Erie, Pennsylvania. If you're not here in Erie, Pennsylvania, find your local blood bank and go in, donate. You will impact so many children's lives. These children are getting multiple transfusions during treatment, and it's so important. And I know by experience that it changes a child's life for the better. So I thank you both for coming today. And at the end of the program here, I'd like to offer, I give some anchors. And one of the I have 3 anchors for today. And one of the anchors is the gift of shared life. And each transfusion is not just medicine. It's a living exchange of grace. Someone somewhere gave a part of themselves so that your child could continue their story. This isn't just biology. It's a reflection of the body of Christ at work, one life sustaining another. So I encourage listeners to see each unit of blood as a divine reminder that we are connected and life flows from one heart to another through the generosity of others. So, the takeaway from this is that every drop given is a testimony that we do not fight alone, and we are held by the hearts of strangers who chose to give life. And the second anchor for today is the peace of trusting the process. It's natural to feel fear watching the transfusion, tubes, machines, monitors, but beneath it all, God's grace is flowing through the process. He is already sanctified through science and compassion. What feels clinical is, in truth, deeply sacred. I invite listeners to rest in the knowledge that even this medical miracle is under divine orchestration, a channel of healing that blends God's wisdom with human hands. And thirdly, the hope of renewed strength. I saw this in my daughter. She was quickly renewed with spiritual and mental and physical strength through the gift of a blood donation. So each transfusion restored what was lost. The red cells bringing oxygen, and platelets providing measures for clotting and not bleeding, and the unseen miracles that let your child be able to play and rise again. So in the same way, God restores us spiritually when we are weak. As your child receives new life at the cellular level, may your faith receive transfusion too, a renewal of strength for both body and soul. So the same God who renews the blood in their veins renews the hope in your heart. I thank you all for joining me today on Love Beyond the Diagnosis. I invite you to follow me on Love Beyond the Diagnosis, both on Instagram and YouTube, The Andrea Richmond Show, Andrea Richmond Facebook page. Look me up, my author page. All this will be live streaming there, and more to come next week on finding rest in the diagnosis. I look forward to seeing you all. Till then, I love you.